Hi, this is Lucy, and again today my guest is Mary Tyler Moore from the Dick Van Dyke Show. Mary Tyler Moore is a very beautiful, very wonderful, talented young lady. I have been impressed with Miss Moore for some time, and I have been very anxious to talk to her so that my listening audience could get to know Mary as I would like to get to know her a little bit better. Like I've told you, this is one of the things I like about radio. I get to talk at length to some of the people that I admire. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Lucy.
We were talking yesterday about some of the plans you make with your family to spend time that is well spent.
Yes.
Because we are working mothers and because daddies very seldom have enough time at home either. And you and I sort of agreed that we plan our times with our families. And I was just going to ask you, what do you do with your time? What is your pleasure? Do you go away? Do you stay at home? Give me an idea.
Oh, we're big stay-at-homes. We're terribly dull in that respect. We don't go out.
Don't call it dull, Mary.
Well, I think by modern standards and certainly by Hollywood standards, we're considered dull. We really love our home and we stay at home. Of course, during the summer, I think is when the children have the best time because we live around the pool. And we do wonderful, intricate dinners like hamburgers and hot dogs. And maybe, if they're very good, we'll have potato chips as a special treat. And so that's our life in the summer, is just living like beach bums in bathing suits and getting tan and fat and just having a wonderful time. We have all kinds of little games that we've invented in the pool. And Richie is a great swimmer. He can stay underwater, I think, longer than anybody I've ever seen. He never comes up. You have to drag him out by the hair, a little water rat.
Anyone that isn't a fish, he takes the prize.
That's right. And, of course, during the winter, then there's a wonderful park near where we live, and we go down there and throw the football around and just run and get rid of all of the pent-up energy.
Do you ever head for the snow?
No, we haven't done that. My husband lived in Connecticut most all his life and grew up with the snow, so he's totally unimpressed by snow.
That's the same with Gary. I make the trek every year, but we've had some rather, strange incidents with the worst blizzard that hit Vermont and New Hampshire in 20 years, and this year we went to Squaw Valley and got flooded out.
Oh,
so
dear.
We're about to give up.
I'd love to do that. I'd like to go up to the snow and spend a good 2 weeks there and learn to ski.
You can't learn to ski in 2 weeks, but you can break a leg in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm really not allowed on skis as long as I'm under contract to CBS.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Gee, I never looked at my contract. Maybe it says I can't do this.
Well, they put it in mine because I kept going to the ski areas. And,
you have a history of breaking bones, too, don't you?
Well, getting hurt. I'm really not accident-prone, but they didn't want to take any chances with skis because that can be like 9 months in a cast, you know.
Well, I'm glad they don't want to take chances because I'd miss you.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Are you going to continue in the Dick Van Dyke Show for...
As long as they want me. But as I understand it, this being our 4th year, we will finish up a 5th year and then go on our separate ways.
We had a 5-year plan at one time, but it sort of stretched into a 15-year plan.
They very often do, I know. Of course, Danny Thomas is a good example. That was supposed to end after 5, and how long did that go? 11, 12 years?
12 or more.
Yes.
And I know that Dick certainly could, but I know that Dick Van Dyke is such a hot movie property at the moment after Mary Poppins and some of the other things that he's doing.
Indeed.
I know that you've had wonderful offers. Do you prefer pictures, do you think, to television?
Well, it would have to be all guessing on my part, since I really have only done one picture, and I wouldn't even call that a picture. It was one of those low-budget wonders that was shot in 2 weeks and better forgotten altogether. It was a picture called X-15. They weren't quite sure whether it was a training film or a melodrama, you know. So that's my only experience with pictures. As far as whether or not I'll prefer the technical aspects of picture making to television, I can't say. I think for a television show, we work under the best conditions as you do, with an audience and rehearsing for 4 days.
Isn't it a wonderful way
It's like doing theater. It's great. And
without the confines of the theater, the regimentation of running for...
And the boredom of having to do the same play over and over again. So I'm sure that I'll get a little fidgety when I find that I'm sitting around the set for 2 hours and then having to do a scene that is difficult 17 times.
If you're doing comedy, that's especially true. The thing that without even knowing about television years ago when I was in pictures, I was still at that time doing comedy. And so I would have a good scene. And so I would come in and do it. And on the first rehearsal, everyone would laugh.
Yeah.
And by the second day, while you're still doing this, by the time they've gotten up to your close-ups, they weren't laughing anymore, Mary.
No, and you begin to think it's your fault,
And
right?
it's just a dreadful way to do comedy. Orson Welles, 20 years ago, said that you must never make a comedy under the usual picture conditions.
Yeah.
You must make it as we're doing it now, spontaneously, the first take.
Yes.
And with as much audience as possible. We pioneered this operation.
I know.
Of bringing the audience into the motion
Didn't you
picture.
do your show right on our set over here?
Yes, we
staging?
had this. I was on that stage for 9 years without leaving, except
Yeah.
long enough to have a couple of children.
Yes. Which you did without leaving.
Practically.
Yeah.
I did get a couple of days in the hospital.
That was good of them.
Mary, about your clothes, I like the way you dress.
Thank you.
Are you your own designer? Do you buy clothes? Do you have them made?
I have certain cocktail things made. As I said before, I don't like to go nightclubbing or partying, but you have to do a certain amount of that, and particularly being married to a man in the business also. So I'll have a few things designed, that I will design and then have made, but they're always very simple things. They're the kind of dress that if it were made in a different fabric would be fine for the morning to go shopping in.
And I do that all the time. I have copied cotton dresses.
Yes.
For evening dresses or
Yeah.
cocktail dresses.
I love that. I love clothes, but I like them to be very, very simple.
Very comfortable. They have to be
Yeah.
comfortable or I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
stand it.
Well, you know the way I dress. Like you, I don't get out of pants and sweaters unless I'm forced to get
That's
out of
one
them
of the
and into a
wonderful
dress.
things about California. I prefer California because of the way I can dress. I go out of my mind in the big cities
Well,
having to wear heels all the time. and-
Last summer, I was rehearsing for a show in New York, and we were staying at the Essex House on Central Park South, and I was going to dance in this show. So I thought, okay, fine, well, I'll put on my leotards, the black stockings, and the ballet shoes, and now how do I get down in the elevator, out in the lobby, and into the cab without being arrested?
It's impossible.
You can't. But here you just throw a coat over your shoulders if you're going to be terribly formal, and then
Yeah.
get in the car and go.
Would you think that you would want to continue living in California?
Oh, yes. First of all, my husband, having spent all his working years in New York, with the exception of the last 2, is a big fan of California. So that settles that right away. But forgetting him, I love California. It's
Where
wonderful.
are you from
New
originally?
York, Brooklyn.
Really?
But I moved out here when I was 8.
Uh-huh.
But I like California. I think if I were single, there'd be no more exciting city to live in than New York. And then you'd have a marvelous little penthouse apartment, and you'd have lots of parties and wild, crazy things going on all the time. But when you're married and you have children and you enjoy kicking your shoes off and stretching out on the couch, California is the place to live. But we get back to New York about 3 or 4 times a year. We see all the shows, and we go to the restaurants, and we put on weight, and I do a lot of shopping.
Yeah. But it's just a nice place to go
Yeah.
for a week or two. I like New York, and I appreciate New York. But I like to get back out here, and I have a feeling of roots, and I can enjoy my family. And
And your
dear.
home, your lovely home.
Thank you, darling, and I hope you come to see us again soon.
Thank you. I'd like to, Lucy.
I'm sorry, but our time is up. Isn't that awful?
Yeah.
I never have enough time to talk. Well, perhaps I can grab you for another few days.
I'd love
at a
it.
later date.
I'd love it.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Lucy.
Bye for now. I have been talking to Mary Tyler Moore, one of the most beautiful and nicest ladies in our business, from the Dick Van Dyke Show. I hope you've enjoyed listening. Bye.